But Jose, attorneys don't want to speak to me. Their assistants rush me off the phone. How is it possible that you can work with attorneys and actually grow a probate business?
Why are you asking me? Today, we are going to teach you guys how to get probate listings from attorneys. We're going to talk about everything from which attorneys are the best attorneys to give you business. We're going to talk about how to get in front of the attorneys, meaning how to get past the gatekeeper. Once you get in front of them, we're going to teach you how to build relationships with the attorneys and what attorneys look for when they're referring a real estate agent out. In other words, we're going to teach you how to build the business where you're consistently getting referrals from attorneys. That way you can sell more properties. You excited about this, Novello?
I'm always excited, baby. And what I'm aware of is that this information is super valuable. You know, when you go from 6 million transactions in a calendar year to 3.9 million, that's a massive drop in volume. And the people that are going to sell, particularly with rates the way that they are, and like something like 90% of everybody have rates that are less than 6%, the people that are going to sell have a compelling reason as to why they're going to sell. And usually that is a life event of some sort, and death is one of those events. It's market resistant, meaning that it happens all the time. And 65% of those homes are free and clear statistically. And if they are motivated, they're very motivated. And we talked about it on a previous video. You can go back and watch that one, about how to go directly to executors or personal representatives. And that's one approach. And that's the approach that I utilized primarily to grow that business and have it be 50, 60 listings a year consistently for like 5 years. Now you did that, but you also cultivated relationships with attorneys. And you did it in a very kind of strategic, purposeful way. So why don't we start off by, kind of having a conversation about, hey, these attorneys, like, they have gatekeepers, which is the assistants. And, it can be a challenge for people to get past them, right? So how did you go about doing that?
Well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You know how you said that a lot of it, we grow our business by reaching out to the administrators. So one of the things that I did when I would reach out to the administrators and they would hire me, I created process maps to keep the attorney engaged. So like, let's say I take a listing, I send an email out to the administrator saying, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I would send an email to the attorney as well too, and say, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to work with you. My name's Jose Morales. I know that we haven't worked together in the past. By the way, for your convenience, I've attached a copy of the contract. Now, when I would attach the copy of the contract, you have to know how to fill out a probate listing agreement in California. I don't know if in Florida they have any differences from a regular listing agreement. In California, they have some subtle differences. Number one, in some counties, the contract can't be more than 90 days. In some counties, the percentage cannot be more than 5% commission. And and there's a little checkbox that says probate listing agreement. You have to fill that out. Then it gives you a probate listing addendum or a probate listing advisory. You have a contract that is filled out correctly. You send it to the administrator or to the attorney. And now the attorney, when he reviews the contract, is like, okay, first of all, nobody sends me a copy of the contract whenever I start working with them. I usually have to find out from the administrator who they started working with. Okay, this is a little bit different right off the bat. Second of all, the contract is filled out perfectly. Wow. Like, oh my God. The last thing on that, whenever you fill out the contract, I usually try to fill it out in a way where it's like John Doe administrator, comma, the estate of John Doe, basically. So if you fill it out in that manner, the attorney is going to review it and be like, okay, great. So there's certain ways to fill it out where you're not filling it out in the seller's name. Like, for example, Aaron Novello, because Aaron Novello doesn't own the property. The estate owns the property. Aaron Novello is the administrator representing the estate of the property. So you do that. Now you're separating yourself from all of the other realtors and you're filling out the paperwork correctly. So that's the first thing that I wanted to backtrack to that. And then we can get into how to get past the gatekeeper as well too.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think that's absolutely accurate, where you're demonstrating specialized knowledge in that specific space, in terms of paperwork and things of that nature and how things need to be authorized and documented. What came up for me too is I would do something similar. Once we earn somebody's business, I would reach out to them, introduce myself. I'd also shoot a quick bomb video and just be like, hey, Jose, I know that you're the, attorney for the Morales estate. I just want to reach out and introduce myself. The family has elected to have me help them with the sale of the real property. And we specialize in these types of transactions. So my intention is to make your job as easy as possible. Included below is the paperwork, filled out appropriately. And, if you have any questions or concerns, we're here to help. So it's basically doing the same thing, just with a little bit of a twist, which is like that video. And in doing so, again, you're demonstrating to the attorney that A, you're personable, you're professional, and you know what you're doing.
100%. So now the next thing, and just so you guys have a little bit of clarity, attorneys look for somebody that can make their job easier. Once again, anything that has to do with business is, what is the problem? How can I solve it? So think about it this way. Let's say that every administrator that the attorney works with hires a different realtor. 99% of the realtors are not going to be familiar with the probate process, how to fill out a contract. So every time that attorney has to go back to the realtor and say, hey, sorry, the contract could only be 90 days. Hey, sorry, it's not the name of the administrator. You have to put the estate of John Doe. And they have to go back and coach them. Think about how much time that takes to coach every single realtor through that process when they have other more important things to do. So part of your value proposition to these attorneys could be like, hey, look, I understand all the paperwork. I understand all the process. I understand how to get this done. I understand, in other words, how to make your life easier. And if you can make their life easier, simpler, now instead of referring some random agent, now they have their go-to person that they like to work with, because it makes their job easier, and they know that their client's being protected, and they know that their client is basically going to come back with raving reviews, which makes them look like a rock star. Now, where do you get the list for these attorneys? Same way you get the list for the administrators, right? The list for the administrators is going to have the contact name for the attorney. And at that point, when I first started, I would reach out to the administrator to see if they needed to sell. If I couldn't get a hold of the administrator, or regardless, I would reach out to the attorney if they were in my market. And I would ask the attorneys if they had any plans. But the question becomes, how do you get through the gatekeeper? So once you reach out to the attorneys, some of them, very small percentage, will have their cell phone. The other part is, how do you get through the gatekeepers? So I would call Aaron's the gatekeeper. I'd be like, hi, I'm looking for attorney John Smith. And they'd be like, I'm sorry, attorney John Smith is actually, or can I tell attorney John Smith what this is going to be regarding? And then I would
will
say,
he or she know what this is? Will he or she know what this is about?
Yeah. And then I'll be like, yes, he will. I'm calling about the John Doe estate. They'll be like, okay, let me put him to this. So the fact that you have a case name sometimes will allow you to get through the gatekeeper, basically. Just as simple as that. I don't give any explanation like I'm a local realtor, I'm trying to build a business with attorneys. Like, no, it's just like, looking for John Doe. Will he know what this is about? Yes, it's about the John Doe estate. They put me through. Then the conversation with the attorney starts. And not all the time they'll say, the attorney's not available. Would you like to leave a message? And then I'll say something funny like, great. Does he have a personal voice message, or are you the personal voice message? Yeah. And then they might be like, no, they'll laugh. I'm the personal voice message. Ha ha ha. I mean, okay, great. Can you tell them that Jose Morales called? It's about the John Doe estate. Blank.
He can reach me at blankety blank.
He can reach me at blankety blank. Same thing if they push me through his voicemail. Hey, I'm looking to leave a voicemail, or hey, Mr. Attorney, Jose Morales calling about the John Doe estate. Have a couple of really quick questions for you. If you'd be kind enough to return my phone call at blank. I'm not telling them the whole spiel like, hey, I'm looking to build a business around attorneys, because if I do, they're not going to call me back.
No.
Right? They're not. So let's assume that they do connect me with the administrator. Then at that point, I'm going to say something along the lines, hi, Mr. Attorney Jose Morales, local real estate agent, specialized in probates and trust. I know this may be premature. Was just wondering if you knew if the estate was planning on keeping any of the real property or leaning more towards selling it. And then at that point, they might say they're selling it. great. Do you know if they already have a real estate agent or if they're open to interviewing somebody with experience that would like to help them get top dollar? No, they don't have a real estate agent. Great. Send me your contact information, whatever. My goal was to get a lunch meeting with them. That was my goal. So regardless of what they said, at the end of the conversation, I would say something along the lines like, I know you're extremely busy. Would you be open to having lunch sometime next week? Yeah. I wouldn't say like, so that we can talk about how we can refer business to each other. Just very vague. Would you be open to having lunch? A lot of times they would say, yes, I'm open to it. Call me next week. Or they would say something along the lines like, call me next week and I'll take a look at what my schedule looks like. It's a polite way of saying like,
I might not do this. Yeah. I'm just trying to get
we might not do this. Yeah. But so what I would say, same thing like a listing appointment. I would say something along the lines, great. Like if we were to get together next week, is there typically a day of the week that would work out better for you?
Yeah. Like under normal conditions, would you typically be available like lunchtime, like around 12, or would a little bit later at 1 be better for you? And it's like, well, I have my calendar open. So what I can do is this, I'll grab a pencil with a big eraser. I know you're, equally as busy. I'll pencil it in for, let's say you said Tuesday and around 1 would work. And then we'll call you just to confirm it. I'll send you a Google invite. And if we need to change it or move it around, we can always do that. Does that sound okay? And they're like, yeah that's fine. All right, great. So I'll pencil it in. And again, I appreciate your time and I look forward to connecting. I would follow that up with a BombBomb video so you can send yourself digitally. Like, hey, Jose, just want to say thank you kindly for taking the time to speak with me. I know your time is valuable. I'm very much so interested in symbiotic relationships. I know you do a lot of probate and, look forward to connecting and see how we can help each other. You know what I mean? And then that's it. And then you can call to confirm. You were also saying where, when you're having that conversation with them, something that popped into my head is I would say, and I'm aware that oftentimes with families like these that aren't local, they do look to the attorney to make a recommendation as far as, an agent that's, understands the process and can help them. I guess I'm curious, do you have a preferred vendor list of agents that you refer? And then quiet. And then you can close, like Jose said, for having a lunch meeting or something of that nature.
And to be honest, I didn't really care if they had an agent already that they work with or if they had anything like that. And the reason is I was looking to establish new relationships with all of them. And then I do want to be transparent. I have easier approaches to get in front of the attorneys, which we'll share in this video. This is probably one of the harder ones. And the reason is that you have to get through the gatekeeper. Then you have to schedule an appointment with the attorney to take them out to lunch, which for some people, it may come off a little bit easier if you're a prospector. If you're not a prospector, it may come off a little bit like almost like setting an appointment with somebody else, which we have softer approaches to be able to do that. Now, in the lunch meeting, I probably in 1 year, Novello, took out maybe like 100 attorneys out to lunch.
Did you really?
Like basically, I swear to God, almost every attorney that specialized in probate. So what happened at the end of those meetings is that a lot of the attorneys ended up knowing me now. And it was a very personal lunch. It was just me and them. It was at a nice restaurant. I would always pay every single time, no matter what. And then during the lunch meeting, I would just ask them questions about themselves. I didn't ask them questions about like how many probate deals you do. I'd just be like, hey, which law school did you go to? Did you always know that you wanted to be an attorney? How many kids do you have? Which city do you live in? What do you enjoy about your job? What don't you enjoy? What has been some of the like most challenging cases that you've had? And then we just, which law school did you attend? And then as the conversation goes, a lot of times if you make it about them, then at the end, they're going to be like, well, what do you do? Like, well, or how long, or they'll start asking you about your business. How long have you been an agent? I would much rather start the conversation asking about them. And then they'll be like, guess what? Attorneys love to talk about themselves. They love it. So if you can get to talk to them about themselves, they will talk for 45 minutes to an hour and you'll learn some things. And then what will happen is that they'll ask you like, okay, how long have you been in the business? Like, how long have you been doing probates? And just very basic questions. Then at the end of it, it's like, okay, great. You just established a relationship. Now, the challenge that I had with that strategy was, okay, I've just built this relationship with this attorney. It's been a month. He hasn't referred me any new business. Like, do I call him back to stay in front of them, or how do I stay in front of them? And this was the challenging part for me, because I was like, okay, how do I stay in front of them? So then I started building ways aside from calling them to be able to stay in front of them, basically.
Yeah, and we can
and
start
those are the
talking
ones that
about
we'll be going over next. Yeah,
exactly. So one of the ways with these niches that you can, be in front of them on a regular basis, each kind of profession, they all have like professional associations, and they meet regularly, typically like once a month. So something that you can do is you can sponsor their lunches. And if you sponsor the lunch, that means you're in the room with them and then you meet all of them. So this is like, it's a long game because you're relationship building, but it's totally worth it, because the way that you want to perceive this is, that one attorney could end up being 4 or 5 listings in a calendar year. And if you have like a bullpen of maybe like 5, really, you don't even need like a ton, but like 5 attorneys who know you, like you, and trust you, and they each send you between 1 to 5 deals a year, that's a meaningful business, right? All by itself. So that's one mechanism that's pretty easy. It's not that difficult. Just find the association of probate attorneys in your geographic area, find out when they meet, ask them if they're looking for any sponsors. They always are. And if you sponsor their lunches, you're going to be in the room with them.
And this is the way I would think about it. Like us real estate agents, there's people that build their businesses off us, like title reps, right? There's insurance reps that build their businesses off us, meaning like, what do title reps do? And what do insurance reps do to stay in front of us? And that's kind of the way I thought about it. I said, well, they built their business around realtors. Why don't I just copy their business model and change it to attorney? So what do title reps do? They attend our real estate meetings. They sponsor sometimes real estate events that they attend. They do pop buys, sometimes the office, and drop off like little Halloween baskets or something like that. I don't know if you guys have ever had that. They'll do pop buys and be like, oh, happy Easter, drop off like a little candy or something like that. So what I kind of copied my attorney business model around was title reps and insurance reps. I said, how can I act similarly to them to build this attorney? So one of the things that I remember doing is that during November, I would drop off pies. So I created this campaign where it was like 4 times a year. And I said, how can I stay in front of them? I made a list of the attorneys that I wanted to build a relationship with. And then I built a map going from each office to each office. Like basically, okay, stop by this office and that office and that office and that office and that office, that office, that office, that office. And it was sectored in North Channel and South Channel. North Channel was everything north of my channel. South Channel was everything south of my channel. And I would do it in 2 days where I would drop off something. So
you personally,
at the very beginning, it was me personally. I would drop off like personally something. And the reason is very similar to a title rep. I wanted to stay in front of them. As I got busier and busier, I stopped doing it personally. And then I hired other people to do it. So every November we would, a Marie Callender's pie, which is like a really good pie in our area, we would drop one of those off. I think like during a different thing, we would just drop off different things. I don't recall exactly what they were, but it was something that would be memorable, along with a little card. Hey, thank you. If you ever need services, keep us in mind. Jose Morales, picture of our business card or whatever. That was one way to stay in front of them. If you don't have the resources to hire somebody, you can do that on your own at the very beginning. I did it 4 times a year. I tried mailers. I didn't really get much of a response to the attorneys. But that one, I would get emails saying, thank you so much for the pies, blah, 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 blah. That was so kind of you. That's very generous of you to drop off the pies.
Yeah. So, and this is the same as far as there's 2 worlds that you want to kind of dominate mind share. Because really what me and Jose are talking about is, how can we get it to where if an attorney has a family who needs help, that you're one of the 2 or 3 agents that they think of? Because that's really the only amount of space that people have in their brains for different, brands or people. And there's the physical world, but then there's also the digital world. So the first thing we're talking about is in the physical world. That's going to these associations, shaking hands, kissing babies, you know what I mean? Showing up with pies. You can buy them lunch for their meeting that they have, on a monthly basis, and everybody's excited and they let them know it's sponsored by you. They probably invite you to say like a word or 2. Again, just like Jose's saying with title companies, these are physical world tactics. There's also digital world tactics, because increasingly as a society, we are spending much more time in the digital world. And Jose, you were very intentional and purposeful about also staying in front of them in the digital world. Why don't you tell everybody how you did that?
And this is the way I want people to think about this. When you said mindshare, the first thing that popped in my mind, and I'll ask agents is, I'll like, hey, what's the first fast food restaurant? Don't answer this, Novello. What's the first fast food restaurant that you could think of? Mm-hmm. Just think about this. Then I'll ask them, what's the first soda company that you could think of? Now, tell me what you came to your mind.
McDonald's and Coca-Cola.
Why?
Because
Why?
Yeah.
And for you watching this, were you thinking the same thing? Were you thinking McDonald's and Coca-Cola? And if so, why were you thinking McDonald's and Coca-Cola? And the reason is they control the mind share, meaning everywhere you look, they're there. And that's the kind of presence that you want to build where everywhere they look, they're there. So one person's only doing one thing and you're doing all of these. Now everywhere they look, like Jose's there, Jose's over there, Jose's over there. First person that they think about when it comes time to selling a property is Jose. Think about it. Coca-Cola, you go to a restaurant, the cups are Coca-Cola. The soda machines say Coca-Cola. The trucks say Coca-Cola. They're everywhere. And that's kind of what you want to build here. So when Aaron said about the digital world, what I would do is every time we receive a case, I'd have a virtual assistant log into my social media and they would look up the attorney on social media and then they would add them to our social medias. They would friend request them or they'd add them to our social. That way, if you're ever on social, you see anything that they post, you can comment on them and say, congratulations on the baby. Congratulations on the new office.
Yeah. And what's important there is that like frequency equals familiarity. That's really what Jose was saying, which is like frequency could be like the amount of times that you see something. So in the physical world and the digital world, frequency equals familiarity. The more you see something, the more familiar you become with it. And, you know, to your strategy of adding them, I think it's important that everybody understand it's not just adding them. The other thing that Jose did is frequency of content, right? So, you know, he's posting valuable information that's entertaining, and it's in front of them all the time. He's also doing podcast episodes that then he can send out to a database that's tagged attorneys. So they're getting all of these episodes of him talking about everything and interviewing people pertaining to real estate, which then solidifies him as the expert. So look at what's happening if you zoom out from like a 30,000 foot view. Okay, we're showing up to the monthly events and we're sponsoring them. We're sending them stuff on a regular basis so they get to know me in the physical world. I'm going out to lunch with them as well. Those are three separate things in the physical world, right? That are deposits of frequency, right? And then in the digital world, not only are we liking and then they follow us, but now they're going to see all of our content on a regular basis. So you can't be posting pictures of you like, you know, Jose's not posting pictures of him in his swimsuit. Like that's not what he's doing. Or what he's eating, or like, you know, like instead he's pushing out content that's valuable and entertaining.
Or politics.
Exactly. That position him as the expert. And then on top of that, they're getting his podcast episodes, which I think you do like 2 per week or something like that on a regular basis. So look at the frequency that ends up equaling familiarity, where he ends up having some mind share. Now he's not going to have it with everybody, but he will have it with a large enough group of people that it'll end up being a meaningful source of business and referrals.
So the other way thing, so everything stems from the probate records. The probate records have the attorney database. One of the things that we did from the beginning is every time there was a new attorney that was not in our database, in our follow-up boss, in our Real Geeks, we would add them to the follow-up boss or we would add them to the Real Geeks. Now, this, I don't know if it led to familiarity, but this was one of the things I did at the beginning. I don't do it anymore. But have you guys ever received an email from somebody? Like, let's say you take a listing. Have you ever received an email from a title rep, an insurance rep, like, congratulations on your new listing all the time? Like I said, I took the business model of a title rep and I said, okay, well, if they send out an email saying congratulations on your new listing, I'll send out an email saying congratulations on your new probate case, the estate of John Doe. As you can tell, I'm a local realtor. I specialize in probates and trusts. If you ever need our services, here there are, a picture of my face. you know? So, but it's the same playbook as a title rep. So you guys can learn a lot from looking at how other businesses are run and be like, okay, what can I learn from this business, from this restaurant business? What can I learn from this construction business? What can I learn from this insurance business? And what can I implement in my real estate business? And that was one of the things. So every time there was a new attorney that I saw on the record that wasn't part of our database, we would add them to our database basically. And now they would receive all the same information that my sphere of influence would receive. And I'll tell you how we would break it down. The other thing that I do, and this was all done by a virtual assistant. The virtual assistant would add them to the database. The virtual assistant will add them to Facebook. Another thing that I did at the very beginning is every time there was a new case, I started ranking the attorneys to see who did the most cases. And what my philosophy was, and this was a rookie mistake, is I thought, okay, I'm just going to target the top 10 attorneys. And if I land all 10 of these accounts, I'm set for life, basically. That was a mistake because the busiest attorneys were the ones that already had the relationships with realtors, and they were the hardest ones to penetrate. Think about this. In the real estate industry, let's say you're a title rep. Who is it easier to build a relationship with? The top producers or the people who are doing onesies or twosies? It's the people that are doing onesies or twosies. So the whole thing that I realized was you can target the top attorneys, but if you build the business with the onesies or twosies, those are easier to build it because nobody's approaching them saying, hey, I want to build my business with you. But let's say you have 100 of those and you get one from every 5 of them, and you're their guy, you have a much bigger business than the one that basically does a bunch of them. Eventually, what ends up happening is if you target the onesies and twosies and you start doing deals with them, they start talking about it to the top producers. And then the top producers start hearing your name like, hey, who is this person? And then that opens the door because now you can say, oh, I work with attorney such and such. I work with attorney such and such. But my first big break was from an attorney that didn't do a lot of business. And that was the first person that referred me out. And that was a mistake that I did trying to target the big ones versus the focusing on the smaller accounts, basically.
That makes total sense that they will have the relationships. They're busier. They're harder to get a hold of. And the other individuals are just getting started. So it's an opportunity for you to formulate a kind of foundational relationship that can continue to be nurtured over time. Another pro tip that I would propose doing is when you do a deal with them, that immediately when the deal is complete, you personally, as an agent, go online to their Google My Business profile and leave them a review. My experience with attorneys is oftentimes they're not very technologically savvy. Not all of them, you know what I mean? Just like agents for the most part aren't technologically savvy, but they don't have robust kind of Google My Business profiles with lots of reviews. So you can leave them a review. They're going to get pinged when that review is sent. Then I would call them up and say, hey, I just want to say congratulations for, getting this file closed. Also wanted to say thank you, appreciate your professionalism. And it was a pleasure working with you. We look forward to the opportunity to work with you in the future. If you have anybody who, needs our assistance and help. And FYI, I left you a 5-star review on your Google My Business profile. They're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. You did that? You're like, yeah, for sure. And again, we look forward to the opportunity to be of assistance. I'm curious, while I have you on the phone, do you have any files right now that you think that could use our help? And then be quiet. They're either going to say yes or no, and then great, and then kind of move on from there. But I found that to be very effective as well.
So this was the digital world game plan that I had. So Aaron talked about how I do a podcast. This podcast releases 2 episodes per week. I separated my databases. So I have my regular database, which is just clients, buyers, and sellers. I have my attorney database, and then I've had a realtor database for a long time. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but now with EXP, obviously that helps us out. I send out the same podcast episode, just with different branding, basically. So one of them says probate, trust, and divorce real estate agent. That's the header. It's the same episode, so I don't have to replicate that once. It's just my admin team changes the branding on it. And then,
so do you change the thumbnail? Do you change the thumbnail as well?
No, thumbnail is exactly the same.
Thumbnail is exactly the same,
the header.
But like the title's the same.
The
okay,
header.
I got it.
The header. So like whenever you send out an email, like sometimes you can put a header on there, like a banner.
Got it.
and the banner at the very top is different. So for attorneys, probate, trust, and divorce real estate agent, over something like, we specialize in probate and trust, and our phone number for that. And then on those podcast episodes, the cool thing is that you have little buttons that they can click on, basically. And those little buttons are actually trackable. A lot of people don't know that they're trackable, but they are. So I think I would have like request attorney documents, request real estate documents, and they would click a button and it would take them to a portal where they can request documents without talking to me. They can request evaluation. They can request a copy of a preliminary title report. They can request all these different things, which we can go into. I had a different one saying, like, what's the value of a property? And they can click on that, buy or sell a property, and maybe like a different button, maybe like a cash offer button on there as well too. So, and you can track to see who would click on what. And if they would click on things, you have the option of reaching out to them and say, hey, look, like, do you need any real estate documents? Is there anything that I can help you with? But the valuable one was staying in front of them twice a week. Now, twice a week, that's 108 times that they're seeing me in their email box. The whole point was for them to start watching some of my videos. If they start watching some of my videos, I've now separated myself from every other agent. And now I'm the authority because they're like, man, this guy is extremely, extremely knowledgeable. And a lot of times they want to work with me. And that goes the same for our regular clients and real estate agents. The goal is for them to start watching their videos, basically.
Yeah. And the goal is to get to long form, because they've done studies that if somebody like consumes 15 hours of content, there's a very high degree of probability that they will, engage with you or do business with you in some capacity. It's difficult to get to the 15 hours on 60-second shorts. It's not difficult on hour-long podcasts, right? So I think that was very strategic. It's purposeful. It's intentional. And it works. Now, I'm curious because I can hear everybody kind of thinking in their head, well, this sounds like a lot. Like, how long before I start to get traction, right? My professional experience, and I'm curious for you, every time I pushed into a new lead source, it takes like 120 days to like start getting traction and start like getting somebody to refer or do deals and stuff. Was that the case for you when you deployed this approach with attorneys?
Yeah, it was. And like I said, I started off with the attorney lunches. My first referral actually came from an attorney lunch with somebody who was not a big attorney. And he ended up referring me to trust sales, meaning they weren't probates. They just had a trust already. And I remember at that time, that was big in my career because that was 3 listings. I wasn't taking that many listings at that time. So that was like huge. And they were great listings, by the way, as well, too.
Yeah. So I just want everybody to be clear that whenever you're pushing into something that's new, it can take 120 days or longer, right? And the idea is V over T. It's volume over time. So everything that kind of we're sharing may be kind of new to you, but I promise you it's not unique. As Jose pointed out, other industries do this stuff all the time. So the process is not necessarily unique. What is unique is the execution. What is unique is sticking with it and putting forth the volume of activity over an unreasonable amount of time when most people would stop. Because, in coaching agents and, as we build out the Elite Builders organization, and there's hundreds now, one thing I see agents do frequently is when they get started down a particular path, they get very impatient. So they'll do something for 30 days. Like, well, it's not producing results. I spent a little bit of money. Like, I should stop. Where it's like, look, this is a long game. And you want to play long games for that very reason, because most people aren't willing to play them. They give up too quickly. Right? So Jose stuck with this over an extended period of time. And then I'm curious, like after those couple of listings, when did it start to become like, okay, this is like a meaningful source of business for us?
I'd probably say like a year or so later, to be quite honest, where it was like when I started getting consistent business from attorneys, it was probably like a year later. And then, because at first you got to remember, guys, I was trying to figure this out. Like, I didn't know, like the hardest thing that was for me is how to stay in front of them without calling them every single time. Because if you call them every single time, every time you call them, they're going to be like, this guy again, like, is calling me. Like, I have him at the top of my head already, but why? So that's when I started attending the events. That's when I started creating the podcast and sending the videos out to them to stay in front of them. And then, that was the most challenging thing, staying in front of them consistently. But it's the same way Coca-Cola stays in front of you or McDonald's stays in front of you. You just got to find different ways to stay in front of them, where maybe once a year, twice a year is a phone call, and the rest of them is just social media, the podcast episodes. There's something called ad roll. Ad roll is like a little banner ad that pops up on like Yahoo. I don't know if you've ever seen like Yahoo ads. You can upload your database, which you've already uploaded, of all attorneys, and then they start seeing an ad roll with you. So they start going on Yahoo. All of a sudden they start seeing your advertisements. Attorneys have a magazine. A lot of times, just like real estate agents have a magazine, they have a magazine that they subscribe to. You can advertise in that magazine. So basically you're creating an environment where everywhere that they look, they see you. They look to their magazine, you're there. They look to their email, you're there. They look on Facebook, you're there. They look on the events, on the cases, like meaning their attorney events, you're there sponsoring the event. You know, sometimes you get called to be in court, you're there. So everywhere they look, you're omnipresence, basically. So you're the first person that they think about, basically, whenever they do that. Now,
yeah, I was going to say that like known is better than best. So you might be out there be like, hey, I'm the best agent and I can help these people. Well, it doesn't really matter if nobody knows who you are. So known is better than best. And I really appreciate you saying like, yo, it took like a year. It took me a year on media to get any kind of meaningful traction. I was 42 episodes deep and had 200 subscribers. Like most people would stop. So it's just being willing to put forth time, energy, and resources, knowing that with a very high degree of probability, it will work out. So it's a long game. It's just totally worth it though, because as time progresses, again, you're getting like a bench of professionals who have a lot of influence with their clients, which are families. And, if you get a handful of them referring you on a regular basis, it'll transform your business for sure.
The other thing I was going to say is, you remember how I said that I had different branding for the attorneys, on the emails? That different branding had a different website. And that website, when they landed on it, was specifically for attorney services that we offered. And there was a button on there where they could actually request real estate documents, because sometimes attorneys have trouble getting real estate documents. And it was just a way of adding value. My philosophy was, I'm going to make it easy for them to request real estate documents, because if they're requesting real estate documents through me, more than likely, if somebody asks them to buy or sell, they're going to recommend me because I'm the first person that they think about when they think about real estate.
Yeah. And what just popped up for me is when you're having a conversation with them, you could even ask them, you could be like, hey, I know that sometimes, because we work with a lot of attorneys and sometimes they have a challenge getting real estate documents. If I could get you a website where you would have access to those documents, would that be helpful or useful to you in some way?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, we work with a lot of families in these dynamics. And I know sometimes they can use some extra help or assistance, with like an estate sale, getting items cleared out, donate to local charities, or maybe even some light handyman work to prepare the property. Based on your conversations with them, do you feel as though that would be of value, or is that not applicable in this situation? And they're like, well, yeah, you know what I mean? Like in doing that, you're demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. I would also too, Jose, I would reach out to attorneys and I would always demur to them, because what I'm aware of is, and again, they're an awesome class of society, at the same time, they oftentimes think that they're like smarter than us, right? So I would say, look, I'm going to defer to your judgment. Like whatever you decide is what we'll do, right? Because you're the attorney, I'm not an attorney. At the same time, we facilitate a lot of these transactions. And here's a process that we usually use in these situations where there's no fighting, no disagreement, and it's a homesteaded property. I would explain the process and I would say, is that something you would be open to? And they would be like, well, yeah, I'm open to that. Okay, great. So if you be kind enough to have that conversation with the clients, because I already shared it with them, but they're kind of waiting to get a green light from you. So if you be kind enough to have that conversation with them, and then I'll follow up with them, we'll get the appropriate paperwork authorized and we can take the next steps. And I'll be sure to send you a copy of everything that's authorized. Does that sound okay? Or would you like me to send you a copy of the listing agreement before they authorize it? Because oftentimes they do. They want to review it. They want to make sure, justify their fees and stuff. So, and they'd be like, yeah, it's like, okay, great. So I can get it over to you today. If I do, when do you think I can expect to get it back with some notes? Because that's what they would do. They'd mark it up and make some changes. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty positive, like whatever changes you make will be okay. I'm sure we'll come to an agreement. So once I get that back, you can have that order of operations is you can have the conversation with the family. I'm going to send you over the documentation. You can review it. You can make any changes, and I'm sure they'll be acceptable. Once I get it back in review and I deem that it's perfectly fine, which more likely than not it will be, I will send that document to the family via DocuSign. I'll include you, not as a signer, but just as somebody who can review it. And then you'll also get a copy once they sign it. Does that sound okay? Like if you watch that procedurally, if you're talking to that agent and you're an attorney, what are you thinking in your head? This person's done this a lot. They know exactly what they're doing. Not only do they understand the legal component of things, but they also kind of procedurally have a way to make this like as smooth and efficient as possible. And then moving forward, again, to Jose's point, they don't like explaining things to agents. They don't want to say like, hey, your paperwork's messed up, or hey, I don't know if you know this, but we can't actually sell by this closing date, or hey, you need to put this language in the additional, right? They don't, it's not preferable for them. It's preferable for them to deal with another professional that knows what they're doing.
100%. I had a case recently where I'm representing a professional fiduciary, which is somebody that's appointed by the court, somebody I have a relationship with. And she goes, Jose, do you know if we're going to have to do a notice of proposed action on this one? I'm like, let me check our file, because the very first thing we do when we email the attorney a copy of the contract, we ask them, is there going to be a notice of proposed action for this file? The attorney responded, no. I go back to the professional fiduciary in that same conversation, and I tell her, look, just so you know, like our process is that whenever we start working with the attorney, we always ask him this. I have it on file already, and it says no. Or she said, I'm going to check with the attorney. I'm like, let me check. We might already have it on file. And I did her job so that she didn't have to go check for the attorney. And a notice of proposed action, something that in California is very important. We don't have to get into details, but there's intricacies. So basically what Aaron is saying is spot on. Attorneys look for people that know what they're doing, and they want somebody where they don't have to explain things over and over. And they want somebody that has processes, systems to basically make it an easier process for them as well too.
Yeah. And it's really important to them that they have someone that is professional, right? Because it's not uncommon with these, kind of circumstances that people come out of the woodwork to try to take advantage of the situation in terms of, buying it at steep discounts or things of that nature. And I'm aware that some family members, they don't care and they just want cash offers. At the same time, it can be like egregious. So they want someone that they know can refer the family to vendors and stuff that, are people that there's no financial incentive for them to be referring the vendors. These are people that they know, like, and trust, that are licensed and insured, right? That they are dealing with somebody who can help in a way assist the attorney. Again, we're not attorneys, but because we understand the process pretty well, we can kind of do a little bit of the attorney's like assistant work in terms of guiding them through the process, and that they know that they're going to look out for the family's best interest.
So then the next thing for me was, how do I differentiate myself from every agent out in the marketplace? Like, meaning like, okay, we know that they look for people that that understand the paperwork, understand the processes, but there might be hundreds of people like that or hundreds of agents like that in your market, So what I said is, how can I add some services that would differentiate myself from everybody else? So I started adding different services that were specifically targeted to helping attorney clients make this process. So I said, all right, I have access to capital. I came up with a service, and I started telling all the attorneys, because there was an agent in Los Angeles who had this service and attorneys liked it, and they would refer him from Los Angeles. So I said, I'm just going to copy the same service that he has. The service was, I told attorneys, I will help your client fix the property. I will help them get estimates, coordinate all the repairs, and get the property fixed if they want it fixed. And I will pay for it out of pocket. I won't charge them anything for doing that. I just get the listing, and once I sell the property, I get reimbursed at the close of escrow. Why did I start that process? Because I knew that would wipe out 99% of the realtors, and 99% of the realtors would not be able to compete with me because they didn't have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 and willing to deploy that capital to earn a $20,000, $25,000 commission. So
Yeah.
I added that service because I felt it would set me apart from everybody else, and it would allow me to differentiate myself in the eyes of attorneys. The other thing that I offered attorneys is they need something called the date of death valuation for tax purposes. A date of death valuation is a valuation when somebody passes away. It's a valuation at the time of death. It establishes property tax basis, basically, or not property tax. It establishes a basis. So if you need to sell the property, and they need that. So I started offering that to attorneys, regardless of it, whether it turned into a listing or not. So I have attorneys that reach out to me like, hey, Jose, I need this valuation and I'm like, great. When did the person pass away? What condition was the property in? I'll send it on a company letterhead. They are like, oh my God, thank you so much. Next time I say, great, just keep me in mind for the next listing. Basically, that comes across your table. It's basically a free service that I provide to them. And it's a way of me being their go-to guy. All you want to do is provide services where you're their go-to guy. Other things that I did to separate myself is I bought a moving truck. So the moving truck, whenever people would need help taking items to donations, I would hire somebody. We'd move those items to donations for them. If an attorney ever needed something to use with the moving truck, here's the moving truck, use it for free. We bought a dump truck, hey, like somebody ever needs a property cleaned out, we load up the dump truck. So I started adding all these different services to separate myself from other agents. So what I would ask yourself at some point is be like, okay, what is your competitive advantage? How are you separating yourself from other agents? And what is your unique value proposition to these attorneys? How can you help make their life easier? And you may not start there, but eventually the vision is to continue to improve your services, because eventually people will catch on to what you're doing and they'll start setting some of these up. So you want to build a moat around the business, basically.
Yeah. And what you're saying is just 100% accurate, because anybody truthfully can help them sell the home. I mean, that's the truth, right? If that's your main value proposition, I'm going to help you sell the home and net the most, like you're not cutting it. Like that's to be expected. So by adding these ancillary services, you're differentiating. The other thing that you're doing is you're solving problems. So not only will it help you cause yourself to stand out, but it'll cause you to actually retain business, right? Where there's two agents, one's presenting and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to market the home, I'm going to get top dollar and here's my commission. And then that's it. And then Jose's like, yeah, we can help you to sell the home. I guess I'm curious. We do have oftentimes families in these dynamics. They could use some extra help or assistance. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, and my intention isn't to be nosy, just to determine how I could best be of assistance and maybe give you some information that could be helpful or useful, is just ask a few questions. Would that be all right? And they're like, yeah. So it's like, typically families need some help or assistance with contents, an estate sale, getting stuff cleared out, donated to local charities. Is that something that you guys need help with? Or, sometimes homes, depending on their condition, it's not uncommon. Probably 25% of these homes are in disrepair and they just need to be cleared out of contents, and everything on the inside just goes to a dump truck. We actually have a dump truck, and at no charge, we can have one station there and get some workers out there to empty it out. Would that be helpful or useful to you in some way? Or like, hey, what if I told you we could flip your own property? And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, we don't have any money. We can't put it in. It's like, well, we have a program for homeowners like yourself where we can determine, what would make sense to do that would allow us to maximize value. And me as the agent, I would put the money up, right, to do that. And we would use our vendors. And then I don't charge you any money. There's no interest on that money or anything. I just get compensated out of closing. In this way, though, we can ensure that you're maximizing value, putting top dollar into your pocket instead of letting an investor buy it at a steep discount. They do the work and they end up with, all of the profit. Which would you prefer? Right? Another thing that we did is we would have a project manager on our team where, oftentimes these families aren't local and there's all this stuff that needs to be done. So our project manager, let's say we mapped out a strategy. So, okay, first they're going to come down. They're going to get contents that have sentimental value. Then the home needs to be cleared out. Then we're going to change the flooring and we're going to paint it. Right. And then we're going to put it on the market. Great. Well, we would send that to the project manager. The project manager then would reach out to the client and say, hey, my name is Melissa. I am Aaron's personal assistant, which makes me your personal assistant. And I'm going to be walking you through the process of preparing this property to get on the market for sale. I'm looking here at the order of operations. The first is that you guys are coming down. I guess I'm curious, when you're here, we have a local vendor who owns a UPS store. and she can meet you at the property. So with the stuff that you have sentimental value that you decide to set aside, it goes by weight. She'll weigh it right in front of you, tell you how much it costs, and she'll ship it wherever you want it to go. Do you think that could be helpful or useful? They're like, oh yeah, that'd be fantastic. Great. So what I'll do is I can schedule it for you. When do you plan on being here? And what would be a good time for her to meet with you? And then we schedule that, right? And then once that's done, we move to the next order of operations, which is to get it cleared out. And she would get quotes to clear it out, report it back to the owner, and nothing gets done until the owner says, okay. Once they say, okay, work's done. And then we connect the vendor with the owner for payment. And then we move on and so forth with, we get a couple quotes for the flooring, we report them back, same thing with paint, and then we proceed to put on the market. That's amazing, particularly if they're not local. Like you're basically giving them a personal assistant because they have their own life that's going on, right? And they're, a husband or a dad or, they have kids or, they're working and all this other stuff where they have a personal assistant at no charge who is walking them through the process procedurally.
And if you're not at the level yet where you can actually upfront the money, what Aaron is saying right there, that's amazing value proposition as well too. And if you don't have a personal coordinator that can do that, guess what? You're the personal coordinator. You think I ever helped somebody box up items at the house? Hell yeah, when I didn't have the resources. It's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of creativity. Like if you don't have, if you're like, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't have a personal coordinator. Guess what? You're the personal coordinator.
I remember what's funny is I remember when you said that,
okay.
And it's okay. Well, I remember a situation where it was like 2 days before closing and we had coordinated and the moving truck was supposed to be there and everything. And the condo was completely full of contents, like completely full, like beds, furniture, like knickknack, like everything, right? Towels, linens, sheets, cutlery, plates, everything. And they're like, yeah, the moving truck's not coming. I was like, what? Like, yeah, it's not coming. Like, all right, well, it's got to get emptied out. So like you, I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to do? So I called somebody that I knew. I paid him a couple $100. We both went over there and filled up like 25 garbage bags and just threw everything down the chute and it closed. Because the family was out of town. Like they can't do anything. There's nothing they can do. And the person didn't want, you know what I mean? So this idea of like, I can hear people say like, whatever it takes, bro. And the truth is what I was just describing as far as like someone who's just like a coordinator. And I make it sound better because it's like, look, she's my personal assistant, which makes you your personal assistant. That was on a per file basis. You could pay a couple $100 for that service. You know what I mean? It might take 10 hours of the person's time, maybe, probably less than that. And, it adds tremendous value. So the thing that everybody needs to hear, whether it's I'm speaking to the attorneys or the families, is I have to be consciously and purposefully and intentionally focused on adding more value. And whoever adds more value wins, right? I think a lot of people are just kind of myopically focused on, I need to like learn the listing presentation for probate. It's like, okay, yeah, like that's part of it. You have to learn what to say. What we're talking about here is probably 50% or more of it. Is that you also have to be intentional and purposeful about adding value and creating services that cause people to want to work with you versus somebody else.
It was funny because one of our agents, I'm not going to mention her name, he was telling me like, look, like a lady needs help boxing up her items. And he's like, and I can't afford it right now. I'm like, look, when I couldn't afford it, I used to do it to help them out because I was so hungry for the business. He literally went down there, helped her do that, had dinner with her, and literally washed the dishes after he had dinner, and he got the listing. But to me, some people might be like, oh my God, he did that. Like almost like it's a downplay. No, he helped her. Remember guys, we are in the helping business. Our job is to help people, and whatever it takes to get there, that one check could lead to a double end. It could lead to another buyer sale. It could lead to a referral down the future. That one new relationship that you are willing to do something that other people weren't willing to do can establish so many new relationships for you guys. And it's so important that you go into it with that type of mentality. Here's my last gold nugget for this, Novello. And I don't know if we have more, but my last gold nugget is when I was coming across the cases, calling the administrators, I kept saying the case of one administrator very frequently. And I was like, what is this person? And it said public guardian, public administrators program. And I was like, why does this person come up so often? And essentially what it is if a person passes away and doesn't have any family members, or the family members aren't capable of representing them, the county, whatever county you're a part of, typically has a program where they help sell the property for the person. Or if they're in a guardianship and they need to sell a property, they help. So what I ended up doing is I ended up calling the county, and nobody knew about this program. Like, it wasn't like a big thing. And I kept asking. One day I got lucky where I ran into somebody, and they were like, yeah, the contract's actually coming up in 2 weeks. They're going to open up the bidding. Now, this bidding is the same way, like somebody, let's say somebody is going to pave the highway. There's government, you have to bid on a government contract in order to do that. And that's the same thing with this bidding process. So I ended up going on there. I ended up submitting a bid, and I became the exclusive realtor for the county that I work with. And they refer maybe 4 or 5 different deals a year to me. And I'm one of 2 agents that does that in our market. And what I would encourage you guys to do is to find out if there is a contract like that in your market and reach out to them. In my market, it's called public guardian, public administrator. The thing is, it's whenever they don't have any family, or the family's not capable of doing it, the county handles the sale. And if there's a program like that, you might be able to get a contract where it guarantees you 4 to 5 listings. In my market, that's worth $100,000 a year. For some people, that's all they want to make, $100,000 a year. That one tip is good enough for $100,000, and that might get you what you want, basically.
Yeah, that's solid, bro. See how generous that guy is, giving you the juice. The last tip that I will give is there are people at banks called trust asset managers. Mm-hmm. And trust asset managers function in the similar way of what Jose was just saying, where sometimes people mm-hmm. pass and they leave their estate in a trust, and they leave the bank as the trustee. So there are divisions at the bank that deal with what's called the tangible personal property, which is contents. And then there's divisions of the bank that deal with the real property. So that one trust asset manager might have like 20, 30 properties come across their table in the course of a year. And if you can establish a relationship with a trust asset manager, that could also be, 1 to 5 or, something of that nature, listings per year. I actually bumped into one cold calling because they were the personal representative in the estate. We established a relationship. We knew kind of the similar person that does clear outs, and that person vouched for me. I ended up doing one deal with them and then cultivating that relationship over time. And that ended up being, like you said, a couple, 2, 3, 4 deals a year, and at an average commission of 10, 12, 15,000 bucks, depending on your geographic area. It's a meaningful amount. So if you guys liked this episode, be sure to watch the next one.
Aaron, I can't believe you're calling me. My mom just died, and a month later you're calling me. You're such an ambulance chaser, man.